Tonight on 7 News exclusive, a gang's destructive rampage across Sydney's west, robbing ATMs and ransacking shops.
One of Sydney's most wanted men busted in Auburn, and only 7 News was there.
Inflation falls to a 3-year low. The bad news is it's all an illusion.
Calls for a corruption inquiry into the Qantas scandal takes a shock twist. The commissioners all get perks too.
Tributes for the young boy run down and killed in his school playground.
Kamala Harris makes her last big plea to be president within sight of the White House.
And mosquitoes invade southwest Sydney. Locals have never seen anything like it and nobody wants to help.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson and Angela Cox.
Good evening. An armed gang remains on the run tonight after smashing its way into Western Sydney businesses attempting to steal ATMs.
7 News has exclusive video showing them wrestling one of the heavy machines out the door and making off with the loot.
More than a cash grab, this was a heavy haul. In Sydney's west this morning, at least 3 men went on a crime spree, body slamming their way through the glass doors of not one, but 2 convenience stores before taking tills and an entire ATM.
The glass was everywhere and the ATM was stolen. The boss was here with a police officer.
The machine loaded with cash was meant to be bolted to the ground, but somehow they gave way and the trio was able to simply carry it out.
It's kind of stupid to take something like that, but I'm not sure how. Yeah, they were young.
The group first hit the Easy Mart at Wentworth Point at 1:40 this morning, failing to get the ATM there, so they tried again 45 minutes later up the road at Sydney Olympic Park. Both stores are owned by the same man.
They take it. It's within 3-4 minutes. They know what they're doing. Masks, gloves, hoodies.
Police tonight looking for at least 3 men, possibly of Islander appearance, and this AMG Mercedes they used as a getaway car. It was stolen from Malabar.
Like so many convenience store owners, this isn't the first time this shop has been targeted. Thieves also smashed their way inside here 4 months ago. The cost of repairs and covering losses becoming too much to bear.
Everyone is struggling with the economy. The business, it's all was down. I'm thinking seriously to leave it.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
A man described as Auburn's most wanted is tonight behind bars after a police chase spanning several suburbs in Sydney's west. Live to Annie Puller in Granville. Annie, why was he wanted?
And Abdul Obeid has been on the police radar here for several weeks after alleged robberies at multiple locations, including 2 Bunnings stores. Obeid was spotted at Auburn Central late this afternoon before jumping on a train to Granville, triggering a very large police response, including the Public Order and Riot Squad, as well as Polair and the Dog Squad. 7 News can reveal officers had serious concerns for the community's welfare as the 33-year-old is allegedly known to carry knives. He was arrested at an apartment block on Chiswick Road in South Granville, with detectives seizing bags of evidence, and the 33-year-old will likely face a long list of charges.
OK, thank you, Annie. It looks like borrowers will still have to wait for a mortgage cut despite Australia's best inflation numbers in 3 years.
The annual rate slowed to 2.8% in the September quarter as power and petrol prices tumbled. But economists say the Reserve Bank won't cut yet because the figures aren't what they seem.
A plea from mortgage holders: don't move the goalposts.
People feel fed up.
Prices barely rising in September, bringing the annual rate of inflation within the target band the Reserve Bank said would trigger rate relief.
We're saying it's time for the RBA to cut interest rates.
Not so fast.
The headline rate has been brought down almost artificially
by government power rebates and lower petrol prices.
Temporary subsidies will not hoodwink the Reserve Bank of Australia.
Our policies, including our energy rebates, are making a meaningful difference, but they don't explain all of the moderation in today's figures.
The Treasurer banking the win.
Inflation is back in the band. We are on track for a soft landing in our economy.
But a slow one with no rate cut this year.
The clawback in spending is being acutely felt at Australia's largest supermarket, Woolworths, today issuing a profit warning. The fresh food people not so flush, revising down its profit for the first half of the financial year as customers hunt for bargains.
When they're on sale is always good.
They're switching to lower value items, which reflects or impacts the profitability.
Do you feel like you're spending less each shop?
Yeah.
But not every customer is as cost conscious.
We're buying ice cream.
Do you care how much the ice cream costs?
Say no. No.
And National Business Editor Amelia Brace is here now. Amelia, it doesn't look good for a rate cut next week or even next month.
No, it doesn't, Mark. The Reserve Bank will meet again on Tuesday, Melbourne Cup Day, and my bet is rates remain steady. In fact, late this afternoon, the Commonwealth Bank joined the other big four banks in postponing its interest rate cut expectations until next year. The consensus now is we won't see any relief until February at the earliest.
Patience required. Amelia, thank you. Calls for Anthony Albanese to be investigated by the anti-corruption watchdog over his relationship with Qantas have taken a sharp turn tonight, with revelations the watchdog's commissioners are all members of the airline's chairman's lounge themselves, as Labor colleagues stand by the PM.
Keeping the faith. Labor ministers out today searching for a miracle.
I'm just focused on my day job.
Standing by Anthony Albanese.
How solid is Cabinet support for him?
Oh, completely solid.
Amid allegations he solicited free Qantas upgrades from Alan Joyce dating back to 2009 when he was Transport Minister.
Isn't that unethical conduct?
I don't believe so.
I actually think this whole matter is a really significant beat-up.
That is a clear breach of a ministerial code of conduct.
The coalition threatening a referral to the corruption watchdog.
What were the circumstances around the Prime Minister's decision to not allow Qatar Airways into Australia? Reduced competition and therefore has held up the prices of airfares for too long.
Since then, 7 Labor ministers have been upgraded by Qantas. Even watchdog commissioners are members of its chairman's lounge themselves.
It seems that everyone's a member of the Qantas Chairman's Lounge except me. Why don't they offer me a membership? I'll do anything you want.
The Prime Minister insists this is not a story, but months out from the federal election, the optics aren't good.
The gift of the grab, failing to pass the pub test.
I think it stinks. I think it's pretty typical of most politicians. Probably vote for someone else.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
The National Anti-Corruption Watchdog is reconsidering its own decision not to investigate the robo-debt scandal. A review discovered a conflict of interest, finding Commissioner Paul Brereton should have stood aside because he knew someone involved. An independent figure will now decide whether there should be a new investigation into robo-debt, which clawed back automated Centrelink debts from thousands of Australians.
There are tributes and tears tonight for 11-year-old Jack Davey, the young victim of Melbourne's tragic schoolyard crash. His death has sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community, still wondering what caused a mum to lose control and slam through a fence.
Jack Davey's heartbroken grandmother thought he was safe inside the schoolyard, but he wasn't. The 11-year-old's family, friends and community are struggling to comprehend his tragic death.
I have no words, to be honest with you. They're the most beautiful family.
He was sitting with friends when an out-of-control car veered into the group of grade 5s. 4 children were seriously injured, police describing the crash as a tragic accident.
My daughter saw little bit something and she's keep telling me I saw blood.
Today we're learning more about what happened in the lead up to the crash and the woman behind the wheel. 7 News has been told her children also attend the primary school. It's understood the mother of 3 recently got her licence but has a clean driving history.
Official investigations have been commenced by Victoria Police.
Before the crash, the 40-year-old driver was called to the school for a 2-hour meeting. But what happened when she was behind the wheel is still unknown. Jack was a talented young athlete. He played indoor soccer, basketball and football. From his club, it is with heavy hearts and the deepest sadness that we try to process what has happened. The tragic events yesterday have impacted so many in our local community. A community united in grief for a little boy lost. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
A huge haul of stolen limited edition Bluey coins has been discovered in a Wentworthville storage unit just hours after a third suspect was arrested yesterday morning. More than 40,000 coins were recovered after Strike Force Bandit executed a search warrant. That's 2/3 of the original haul stolen from a Wetherill Park warehouse in July.
There's some good news tonight for our state's hard-working health employees. They've won a pay rise. They'll receive a 3.5% increase with a super boost as well.
And the money can't come soon enough, with shocking news tonight of health workers forced to live in cars because they can't afford housing.
Dedicated to caring for others, but an alarming number of hospital workers are homeless, struggling to survive.
It's out of control.
The RPA Emergency Department.
Virtually living in their car and coming to work, having a shower and then going back to their car.
New South Wales health worker Glenda Walker has moved back into crowded shared accommodation.
It's a forced move. It's not a decision that we made. It's not a choice. I don't know how people survive in Sydney anymore.
According to a new report, a staggering 21% of health sector workers have reported living in sheds, in cars, in overcrowded or hazardous conditions, without electricity, even toilets. An overwhelming 82% are in financial stress due to housing, most struggling to afford basic necessities like food and medication.
When you're on $25 an hour and then you've got to pay rent and everything else, there's nothing left.
One answer, old buildings transformed into dedicated health worker housing blocks. Nurses lived in Camperdown's Queen Mary building for decades.
If the government can actually take a step back to the future, every hospital prior to 1970 had quarters attached to them.
More than 10,000 workers have left New South Wales Health in the past year. A dedicated housing scheme could be a critical draw card. A parliamentary committee is looking into the issue.
There are things that we can do now and the inquiry will tease that out.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
There's been a cruel blow for the grieving family of bullied schoolgirl Charlotte O'Brien. Within 24 hours of setting up a memorial paying tribute to the 12-year-old, it mysteriously vanished. Flowers and photos had been placed on a tree outside the Santa Sabina school grounds. The school and local council say they don't know what happened.
Kamala Harris has delivered her closing argument to the American people as she fights to become their next president. The Democratic nominee chose a significant location, hoping to draw comparisons between her leadership and her rivals. US Bureau Chief David Woywood reports tonight from Washington, D.C.
Against a presidential backdrop.
Good evening, America!
A power move by Kamala Harris.
We are not going back.
To reclaim and redefine a location tainted by violence 4 years ago.
He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob.
This is where Donald Trump gave a very different speech.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building.
In the dying days of his administration.
And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Tonight, though, the former prosecutor delivering her closing argument to a crowd of at least 60,000 supporters.
Each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
It's now been 100 days since Vice President Harris sensationally rose to the top of her party's ticket after an internal pressure campaign to dump President Biden. A brutal election season twist that 7 days out, Donald Trump doesn't want America to forget.
They went in like taking candy from a baby.
Trump still defending his own final address at Madison Square Garden and the controversial opening acts that dialed up the racism and vitriol.
It was like a love fest an absolute love fest.
What did you make of the Puerto Rican comments?
It wasn't a joke for us. We took it very seriously, and we are going to vote to make sure that we take the real trash out.
As Joe Biden's take,
the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
It's not in line with the message of unity Harris was sending tonight.
For too long, we have been consumed with too much division.
In this 50-50 race.
Are you confident?
Yes! Yes!
The next president.
In Washington, D.C., David Woywood, 7 News.
And this Sunday night, join Michael Asher for a special edition of Spotlight covering the race to the White House, and 7's live coverage of the US presidential election count begins at 11:30 next Wednesday morning.
The report into Australia's handling of COVID-19 has stirred up a hornet's nest, with demands for those behind the lockdowns to be held to account. But opinions are split as Sydney-siders look back on the best and worst of pandemic times.
It was the toughest of times for small business.
I'm on my knees.
Students.
We've missed so much already.
Today, reliving the impact of all government's COVID actions.
It has been a long, slow slog.
Wine bar owner Stuart Knox says JobKeeper kept his business alive, but open-ended restrictions, office workers staying away, almost killed it.
We've lifted the lockdowns, most of the restrictions are gone, and it'll all be fine from here. And it just wasn't.
For Kirsty Lucas and parents statewide, home became school, but the mum of 4 says she actually misses it.
How much of a gift that time was. The kids enjoyed it too. I think it gave them a lot more ownership over their learning.
In New South Wales, out of 4 million confirmed cases, almost 8,000 deaths and 22 million doses of vaccine.
The report reviving memories of when the city was divided by lockdowns, which for much of Western and southwestern Sydney was stricter for longer.
It doesn't matter if you lived in Bondi or in Fairfield, we're all the same, we're all families and we all want a better life. And when the government treated us differently, that quite simply provided a divide.
As opposition MPs again demand a royal commission.
The Australian public has not been able to see and hear directly from the decision makers who made those mistakes.
Paul Caddick, 7 News.
It has been 24 years since the Academy Award-winning Gladiator was released, and the long-awaited sequel is about to hit cinemas.
Angelique Opie is live at the Australian premiere in Darling Harbour. Angelique, there's a touch of ancient Rome there tonight.
Yes, and the fans are soaking it all in. Plenty of anticipation for this film's release. We're told to expect a Roman Empire of epic proportions. The star of the first Gladiator was none other than our own Russell Crowe. He's not in this film. Gladiator II happens 20 years after the death of Crowe's character Maximus. His son Lucius is played by Paul Mescal, also starring Denzel Washington.
I am so excited. I've been waiting here since like 7 o'clock, so I'm very, very excited. I grew up with the Gladiator, like the original film, and then now that it's coming again, it's like reliving that like little spark of childhood.
The budget is reportedly $300 million. The set included an actual scale model of the Colosseum. You can catch the film in cinemas on November 14.
Okay, Angelique, thank you. Time to check the weather now with Grace Fitzgibbon.
Grace, plenty of sunshine today.
Yes, Mark, not much to complain about today. Conditions were close to perfect. This shot overlooking a very calm Mort Lake, which was glistening under clear blue skies earlier today. We did see some early morning cloud making for quite a warm start. A low of 17 crept all the way up to 32 in our west this afternoon. A touch cooler in the CBD with 25. A similar story for the entire state today. Conditions were mostly settled under high pressure. Temperatures sat above average. It was particularly warm along the north coast, 30 degrees at Tamworth. Tomorrow is looking a little different with showers set to creep in. I will tell you where and how much in your full forecast coming up soon.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Shock. New details about university bullying exposed after the break. What the Sydney Uni students are accused of.
Hezbollah names a new leader, but there's already a threat with claims he won't last long.
Flight refunds for cancellations and delays, the new rules impacting Australian travellers.
Drama at the Dragons as the Saints tear up their captain's contract.
And from Young Frankenstein to Tootsie, the death of actress Teri Garr. Thank you for watching 7 News. New details have emerged about the bullying incident that led to the mass expulsion of Sydney University students from St Paul's Residential College. The students are accused of gagging a fellow resident with an adult toy and verbally abusing him during a mock trial as a hazing ritual. 6 students have been expelled from the college, 21 others suspended for failing to intervene.
A load of rubbish has erupted in flames while being driven through the streets of Leppington. The quick-thinking driver dumped the truck's contents onto the street to help firefighters. A rechargeable lithium battery is being blamed for igniting the blaze.
Hezbollah's new leader has a target on his back, with Israel warning he won't have the job for long after wiping out most of the terror group's leadership.
Dozens more people have been killed in the latest round of attacks on Lebanon, but there is hope tonight for some form of peace.
Bulldozers remove debris at the site of a devastating Israeli bombardment. 60 people died in this aerial assault on the Bekaa Valley. Dozens more injured, including women and children, trapped under levelled buildings. At least 8 more civilians killed in Israeli rocket fire in the southern town of Sidon as the campaign intensifies against militant group Hezbollah. It's appointed its new leader, Sheikh Naim Qassem, recently celebrating the October 7 attacks.
It was an exceptional event. I can say that it was the beginning of the change to the face of the Middle East.
The Shiite cleric served as Hezbollah's second-in-command since 1991, one of the few surviving figures able to succeed assassinated former leader Hassan Nasrallah. Israeli Defence Minister Yoav Gallant ominously tweeting, "Temporary appointment, not for long." The destruction grows in northern Gaza too, an Israeli strike killing 90 Palestinians overnight.
We are witnessing not only a horrific humanitarian nightmare, but a rapidly accelerating and unravelling of the prospects for a sustainable resolution to this conflict.
The IDF claims it's destroyed most of the terrorist infrastructure in Lebanon, opening the door to a withdrawal and possible ceasefire. In London, Ben Downey, 7 News.
New refund rules are in place for travellers flying to the United States. Cancelled or delayed flights must be refunded by airlines, with deadlines now enforced. Aviation editor Blake Johnson explains.
The new rules are enforced by the US government. They affect all airlines flying to or from the States, including Qantas. They must provide automatic refunds to passengers if a flight is delayed or significantly changed. That's defined as 6 hours for international flights. Announcing the new policy, the US Transport Secretary says airlines are required to provide prompt cash refunds without passengers having to ask. The rules enforce a new deadline for reimbursements: 7 days for credit card purchases, 20 days for other payment methods like frequent flyer points. Qantas says it already refunds passengers whose flights are delayed or cancelled, but now it has a set time frame in which to complete those refunds if it's a flight to or from the US.
American actress Teri Garr has died at the age of 79. She was best known for her comedic roles in Young Frankenstein and Tootsie. The Oscar-nominated actress had been battling multiple sclerosis for more than 20 years. Lisa Kudrow and Michael Keaton among the stars who've paid tribute to her life and career. South West Sydney locals battling a mosquito invasion. Next, warnings of a health emergency, homes, schools, even hospitals infested.
Also still to come, safety first, the best and worst used cars revealed.
How switching off the lights could add years to your life.
Close call, beachgoers escape before a roof comes crashing down.
First look, one of Sydney's most famous buildings to get a makeover.
Cheap and effective, fresh hope for millions of migraine sufferers.
And ahead in sport, the bitter injury blow for Benny's Bunnies and the Kangaroos.
Welcome back. South West Sydney is in the grip of a mosquito crisis tonight. Locals fear it could quickly turn into a public health emergency.
Hospitals, schools, businesses and homes are all infested, and people who've lived in the area for generations say they've never seen anything like it.
There's a buzz in the air in the southwest. And it bites.
We're inundated, it's like a plague.
Neighbours in Chipping Norton are used to mosquitoes, but not like this.
We can't step outside of our front doors. can't hang clothes outside.
Millions of flying bloodsuckers infesting their backyards, so bad they're trapped inside.
We've got to make sure that we use a blower to go outside, get rid of the mozzies.
Therese Stewart has lived in the southwest for 20 years. She now buys citronella by the litre and uses 2 bottles of insect spray every day. And it's spreading. Liverpool Hospital is infested and local schools. It's so bad some even want to move out of the area altogether.
It's not just Chipping Norton that's affected, it's Wattle Grove, it's Hammondville, it's Moorebank.
With fears a public health emergency is brewing.
They can spread pathogens that make us sick, things like Ross River virus.
Today, 7 News spoke to the Environment Department, the Health Department, the EPA, Sydney Water and Liverpool Council, but all passed the buck on to someone else, each claiming it wasn't their responsibility to investigate or manage this growing mosquito problem.
But finally, this afternoon, a breakthrough.
Wherever the problem lies, we'll identify what the root cause is, and again, we'll work together to make sure the residents are looked after.
Promising action to end the infestation. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
Our nighttime spending and travel are now being tracked by the state government to measure how economic activity is tracking. The first results from the Data After Dark platform show growth in the takeaway food and recreation sectors.
We're letting businesses do some things they haven't done in the past, and we need to closely monitor how that rolls out. We need to know what's happening on the ground.
Liquor retailing and the gambling sector recorded declines.
We have remarkable vision for you tonight of a vehicle crash test here in Sydney, pitting a Chinese ute against a Holden Classic. It comes with the release of new used car safety ratings, highlighting high performers at low prices.
Colliding head-on. It's not high speed. In fact, these 2 utes were travelling at 64 kilometres an hour, but one fares far better.
You can see that the Colorado much safer than the Great Wall.
The Chinese-made ute rated just 1 star or very poor in this year's used car safety ratings, compared to the 4-star Colorado, and it's not hard to see why.
You're much more likely to sustain severe chest injuries and lower limb injuries in the Great Wall.
This year's ratings out today rank 400 vehicles. Top picks include later models of the Volkswagen Touareg, Mazda 3 and Toyota Camry. Among the worst performers, early models of the Ford Fiesta, Hyundai Accent and Holden Commodore.
They demonstrate dramatically how on the same budget you might get a very different safety result.
Cars manufactured after 2008 often the best, boasting superior design and more advanced safety features.
We know that newer cars are safer.
And a newer model doesn't have to break the bank. More than half of the safest cars on our roads can be picked up second-hand for less than $10,000.
Bearing in mind people are under financial pressure but still get a far safer deal.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
China is tonight celebrating the successful launch of its youngest ever space crew to its orbiting space station. The 3-person crew includes China's first female astronaut. She's one of 2 crew members born in 1990. They'll spend 6 months in space, the latest leap in China's aim of sending a mission to the moon by 2030. A split-second decision to run may have saved these tourists' lives. Incredibly violent winds whipped a corrugated iron roof onto a beach in Brazil. The group managed to escape just before it landed right where they'd been standing.
Plans for a makeover of one of the city's most historic buildings have been released. The forecourt of the State Library could be doubled in size and turned into a new public space with grassed areas and plants. Surrounding roads would have to be changed to give easier access to the Botanic Garden and Domain.
Bright lights are hurting our health. Just ahead, the scientific study with links to diabetes, obesity and heart disease.
A homeowner finally sells after saying no for 60 years how much his castle is now worth.
The new Tasman muscle aiming to win over Aussie tradies.
And soon in sport, a wild night in the World Series. The Yankees fans who took things way too far. Welcome back.
An Adelaide family whose home has been their castle for decades has finally sold their huge block for $5.5 million. For 60 years, just like Daryl Kerrigan, they'd fought off developers.
$450. For jousting sticks? Tell him he's dreaming.
The Zammit family, whose castle is in Sydney's northwest, is still turning down developers despite estimates their block is worth $60 million. Bright nights and dark days are increasing your chances of an early grave.
Aussie researchers have found our lighting habits are throwing off our body clocks and our well-being.
It's a simple switch that could add years to your life.
People are a lot more sensitive to light than we previously thought.
Researchers at Flinders University studied more than 13 million hours of light recordings from 89,000 people and found using bright lights at night is dimming our life expectancy.
People who had very bright light exposure during the night had about a 30% increased risk of dying per year.
Here's why the big light should be banned. Much better. How are you supposed to relax in this? So much better, in my opinion.
The big light is a big problem, disrupting circadian rhythms, which can lead to various health issues, including diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease.
We seem to function best when we get very bright days, as much sunlight as you can, and very dark nights.
So you really want to aim for warm lighting, so that creates more of an ambient mood, nice and calming and nice and soft.
Dimming or turning off the overhead lights and opting for softer lamps of an evening will not only keep your body clock on track, but can also help get the kids to bed earlier.
Kids are very sensitive to these effects of light. We should embrace the darkness.
And avoid lights out. Georgia Holland, 7 News.
What happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas. Sometimes it ends up as a show premiering at the Sydney Festival. The tale of magicians Siegfried and Roy will be part of this year's 130 show lineup.
It's the one time when the city downs tools and experiences the best of culture.
Festival tickets are in such demand, when they went on sale today, the website temporarily crashed.
Taking a look at finance now, the ASX 200 has closed down 69 points. Both major supermarkets fell after Woolworths issued its profit warning. One Australian dollar is buying 65.56 US cents.
Some star power is being added to a special cause helping sick kids. Brett Lee, Harry Garside and Damien Cook are among a group of celebrities spending 24 hours living inside Randwick's Ronald McDonald House. Their mission, to gain an insight into what brave families face when their little ones are seriously ill, all while raising money to support the home.
Good job. Cheap and effective relief from migraine still to come. The surprise new use for Botox, how it can help millions of Australians escape the agony.
And what this new ute needs to do to compete with the Ranger and Hilux. Don't miss those stories soon on 7 News. But now Jelisa is here with Sport. And Jelisa, Ben Hunt is no longer a Dragon.
No, he's not, Mark. He's walked away from $1 million contract with no club to go to yet. Coming up, we'll reveal who's likely to land Hunt's signature. Plus, one of the greatest footballers of all time hits Sydney for a star-studded exhibition game. At first the Eagle, then the Cup. The superstar jockey with two of our richest racers firmly in his sights. Not even $1 million was enough to keep Ben Hunt at the Dragons any longer. The captain walking away from the final year of his contract after the club finally granted the release he's been asking for a year. The Dolphins say they are interested in the star with his rumoured desire to come back to Queensland.
Defenders from the Tigers coming back.
He's got a young family as well, so he's looking to come home to family. Obviously, his wife needs a bit of a hand sometimes as well. So, and when you're playing footy, you're away every second weekend. Then you have your family to fall back on.
A big blow for Souths today. Cameron Murray to be sidelined for up to 5 months after scans revealed he'll need surgery on a wrist injury sustained in the Kangaroos' win over the Kiwis. Sam Constance will have to wait for his next chance to impress Test selectors. Marcus Harris and Cameron Bancroft are set to open the batting for Australia A against India A when the game begins in Mackay tomorrow. Captain Nathan McSweeney is also in the mix for the vacant Aussie opening spot.
as a kid, your dreams to play for Australia and get a baggy green, and it's a great opportunity, no doubt. I guess what will be will be.
19-year-old Constance is expected to play the second game against India A at the MCG next week, and Andrew McDonald's contract as Australian coach has been extended through to the end of 2027. There was a scary moment in the women's Big Bash last night.
Oh, we're going to have to get some medical staff out here at the moment.
Strikers keeper Bridget Patterson was later cleared of a serious facial injury. Elise Perry's classy half-century couldn't save the Sixers from an 11-run defeat at North Sydney Oval. After starring on debut, 15-year-old Kiva Bray's quickly learning that T20 cricket is a roller coaster, making just 2 and going wicketless. For the second year running, raiders from Japan, France and the UK are here to steal Saturday's $10 million Golden Eagle. Most strewed wide barriers, including the favourite Japanese filly Ascoli Piceno, but gun jockey João Marinha is unfazed.
The Golden Eagle ruffled more than a few feathers during last night's barrier draw.
Have you ever been to a barrier draw like that?
No. This morning, international raiders grabbed the prize, grips loosened by barrier gates, most starting wide in the 20-horse field.
We're not out in the car park, which is which some of our other internationals are.
Barrier 17 for boom Japanese filly Ascoli Piceno, no problem for jockey João Moreira.
If I was to pick a ride, she's no doubt would be the one.
A globe-trotting superstar, the Brazilian lives for races like the Golden Eagle. Ascoli Piceno out to emulate last year's Japanese winner, Auburn Boomerang.
What do you call pressure? It's actually what drives us jockeys.
Moreira's main mission may be Saturday's $10 million Golden Eagle, then next Tuesday, Flemington, for an elusive Melbourne Cup. Twice runner-up, only last year Moreira ran second on Solcombe. Tuesday, the Magic Man rides the Chris Waller-trained Buckaroo.
It's another race on the list that I haven't won before.
Unbeaten French star Lazat with Ambassador Grace Hayden to make Rosehill's racing epicentre Saturday. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Waller's decision not to run Cox Plate winner Via Sistina is a boost to Moreira's hopes of winning the Cup on Buckaroo, but it's another big blow to the depth of the famous race after the scratching of unbeaten Irish raider Jan Bruegel. The 4-year-old failed a Racing Victoria vet scan despite showing no outward signs of injury, infuriating trainer Aidan O'Brien.
Ridiculous, but listen, they're the rules, that's their decision. Unlucky for us, lucky for them.
Racing Victoria says the scan showed the horse is at heightened risk of injury. The great Ronaldinho can't wait to pull the boots back on for a star-studded exhibition game here in Sydney. The humble Brazilian icon's English is limited and he's a little bit media shy, but no translator was needed to understand the 44-year-old's very firm view on whether this could lead to a full-time comeback.
No.
It shows the human being and the type of person he is. This morning he just rocks up to breakfast and the whole place just shut down.
The game is at CommBank Stadium on Friday night. With the Yankees on the brink of World Series defeat, 2 rowdy New Yorkers overstepped the mark in a big way in Game 4 against the LA Dodgers.
Toward the corner, Mookie jumps and he's wrestling with the fan.
Check this out, he jumps in, he catches it, and then watch them wrestle with his glove.
Can't do that.
The fans were ejected and a fair catch was ruled for Mookie Betts, but the Yankees got the job done, keeping the series alive with an 11-4 win. The Dodgers lead 3-1. It's almost like they forgot there was 14.5 million people watching.
What were they thinking?
I know, it wasn't going to end well.
It really
Thrown
wasn't.
out and they missed the comeback.
They did.
Thanks, Lisa. There's now new hope for more than 5 million Australians who suffer from crippling migraines.
The latest research reveals Botox is not only one of the most effective treatments, but also one of the cheapest.
Debbie Levy has been suffering from chronic migraines for 44 years.
They can be quite debilitating. I can stay in bed for 2 days if I don't treat it properly.
Set off by stress, tiredness or even too much activity, Debbie turned to Botox 4 years ago to alleviate her crippling episodes.
I used to get a lot of brow burning migraines and that's reduced that almost to a zero.
It's not the only treatment available. New monthly injections are also seeing positive results.
They're blocking a chemical called CGRP, which is the main chemical in the brain that triggers the migraine process.
But new research has found Botox is the most effective.
It's affordable and it's got a Medicare rebate and it costs a couple of $100s to have it done.
To qualify for the Medicare rebate for Botox and new injections, sufferers must experience chronic migraines, which is defined as 8 migraine days a month and 15 headache days a month.
Only a neurologist can inject them, and you need to have failed or have contraindications to 3 other oral, so tablet medications.
For some, they can provide more than just temporary relief.
It can actually be a longer lasting or more permanent fix.
Samantha Heathwood, 7 News.
There's a new challenger in one of Australia's most competitive car categories. Kia has unveiled the brand's first ute at a star-studded launch in Hobart, but there's no word on how much it'll cost.
They will want to be very sharp on pricing if they want this to compete this time next year.
The Tasman is set to compete with the likes of the Ford Ranger and Toyota Hilux. Now, Grace is back with the weather.
Grace, a change on the way tomorrow.
It looks that way, Mark. A burst of sunshine in the morning before showers arrive in the afternoon. Will they clear in time for the weekend? Those details coming up next.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, falling rent prices, the cities and suburbs with the biggest drop state by state.
Plus Chevo's big scare, his Halloween prank gone wrong.
The revenge is sweet, Nat. See you in the morning, Sydney.
Tonight's edition of The Nightly is out now. Australia's only digital newspaper to drop nightly. Free to your device every weeknight. Spend your night wisely at thenightly.com.au.
Tonight's 7 News headlines. Police are hunting armed robbers who broke into Western Sydney shops, even stealing an ATM.
A man described as Auburn's most wanted has been arrested in dramatic scenes in Granville.
Inflation has fallen to its lowest level in 3 years, but we're likely still months away from an interest rate cut.
More than 40,000 stolen limited edition Bluey coins have been discovered in a Wentworthville storage unit hours after a third suspect was arrested.
And movie fans have flocked to Darling Harbour for the premiere of Gladiator II, where star Paul Mescal has just walked the red carpet.
Now, here's Grace with Sydney's weather.
Thank you, Mark and Ange. Mostly clear skies tonight with northeasterly winds starting to ease, topping off what has been a beautiful day. 25 was the high in the CBD this afternoon under lots of sunshine. Even now, still a comfortable 21 outside. Temperatures were well above average for Sydney this time of year, particularly in our western suburbs where several parts reached 30 degrees. Penrith soared all the way up to a summer-like 32. On the satellite, an inland trough is hovering in the state's north and it's bringing unsettled conditions tonight and tomorrow with isolated showers and possible thunderstorms in the northeast corner this evening. That change has also prompted a warning for strong winds along the Byron coast tomorrow, particularly in the morning. We have a similar change to the south due to a separate trough, and that too is bringing heavy cloud and showers to New South Wales. At this stage, the showers will be mostly felt along the coastline tomorrow, particularly to the north and south of Sydney. Falls likely to be between 1 and 10 millimetres, while the inland regions should remain mostly dry. If we take a look around the capitals, Hobart and Melbourne can also expect showers tomorrow. It's looking clearer in Adelaide with a top of 25 degrees. To the west, fine and sunny for those in Perth with 33, and there could be some storm activity up in Darwin with a high of 33 there. Here in New South Wales, despite the late showers, overall temperatures during the day are set to be well above average tomorrow. Burke could climb all the way up to 36 degrees, 34 the expected high at Coonamble. Zooming in on the metro suburbs, this paints a pretty wet picture, but as I mentioned, the showers should hold off until the late afternoon, so we will likely enjoy some sunshine in the morning before that change sweeps through. It's looking like another particularly warm day for the western suburbs, 31 the expected high for those in Penrith. For Sydney's coast, northerly winds up to 20 knots on the water, shifting south-southeasterly in the middle of the day with a 1 metre southerly swell, 19 in the water. And another warm start in the CBD too, 15 degrees at 6 a.m. tomorrow, warming to a top of 25, similar today. Those afternoon showers anywhere between 0 and 9 millimetres. From there, Friday looking partly cloudy with the chance of some showers, similar into your Saturday with a top of 22 degrees. Sunday is looking very pleasant though, sunshine and a high of 31 in the city, even warmer in our west with 36 degrees. Mark and Ange, I'm looking forward to that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Grace. That is 7 News for this Wednesday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
From all of the 7 News team, thanks so much for your company. Have a great night.
Good night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.